Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brody Consulting Group. To get more information about our publishing and coaching services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Mikhaila Stettler, author of Pink Diamonds. Mikhaila, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Paul. Happy to be here with you.
Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right, question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
The number one piece of advice I would give is that it is never too early to begin planning and executing on marketing, to build your newsletter email list, to start making connections, reaching out, doing social media, all of that. It takes a long time to build a following. So starting early will help you when you're ready to launch and publish your book.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, as a first-time author, if you're trying to go the traditional route, it would be finding an agent and then a publisher. And if you're self-publishing, it would be the marketing. And actually, it's really the marketing for both, because unless you're a celebrity, a publishing company is unlikely to put very much money or resources behind marketing a first-time author. So I really think it's getting eyeballs on your book is kind of the hardest.
And did you go the traditional route or did you go the self-published route?
You know, I started the traditional route, and then I realized I wanted to have more sense of agency and power, and that if I had built up a following, it would be easier to get a traditional publisher. So I decided in the end to self-publish.
Well, that's going to transition really nicely into our next question about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you've used in your book launch that worked well.
I think the most successful was actually Amazon ads. I did an online course to learn how to do it, and then I hired an assistant to delegate some of the grunt work for it, and that actually brought in the most sales.
And do you have any of those strategies that you'd like to share with our listeners in regards to building Amazon ads? Because that's a whole different beast in itself.
You know, it's pretty complex. I mean, it's like there's algorithms, and I think it's one of those things that changes. A lot of it has to do with what genre you put your book in, and looking for other books and authors that you think your target audience is also reading. So you can start leveraging off of that. That's one of the ways, is like you kind of start to compile a list of books and authors who are in a similar genre and a similar style. And that would be one of the things, again, if I had known all of this, it was like a pretty much of a vertical learning curve. I would have prepared much more in advance, and I would have been a lot better positioned, because you actually have a pretty narrow window of getting attention and press, because bloggers and reviewers and media are only interested in the books that are new. They're only going to review or talk about new books. So the earlier you get everything lined up, the better.
Yeah, it's one thing I always mention to my clients is that you have your first 30 days, and that's where you're going to make the lion's share of the revenue, at least on the front end, and also be able to take advantage of the exposure that you're going to get, because everyone likes something new. Something new is always fun, but when it's been out there a while, then it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. So yeah, the first 30 days with the launch are just absolutely critical, and you bring up some great points talking about having those marketing strategies and everything ready as you're writing the book.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you start thinking about your target audience and who they are and what they like to read and what the other things are that they like to do, because that's how you're going to find them. And also it helps you in figuring out how to do a book blurb and a synopsis so that you're positioning it so that not only does it have a hook, but it's going to appeal to their interests and what they're looking for.
And in regards to the Amazon ads, so with ads, typically you're focusing on keywords. Now, was that the strategy that you used for the Amazon ads for yours?
Yes, there was like a system where you're using keywords and then like how many keywords you're using. And then you can also look at finding keywords that aren't as expensive, that are more targeted. Uh, and actually, the things that strategy of finding other authors was that one brought in a lot because those keywords are being used a lot. It just depends on your book, which keywords would work the most. And again, it's a whole science of really understanding that and what people are searching for when they're looking for a new book on Amazon.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what was your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Well, I think, as with most writers, I'm a voracious reader, and to try to name a favorite book would be like naming your favorite child. So, what I thought about was, okay, what are favorite books that I've reread recently? Because the books that I really like, I'll read more than once. Do you do that too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So one of the books that, or a series actually, it was a trilogy that I reread recently, was Deborah Harkness's trilogy, the All Souls trilogy, A Discovery of Witches, Shadow of Night, and The Book of Life. And these are historical novels with a witch and a vampire and time traveling. And the thing that I really liked about it was, well, there were two things. Was there were relationships and this kind of element of mysticism and supernatural. And in the end, and this is what I really liked, was really the message is that love is what heals and brings everyone together.
Absolutely.
And I learned a bunch of things about Elizabethan England. So, because she's actually a historian, so it's historical novels that go back and forth between present day and past because they end up time traveling.
Yeah, like Outlander and some of the series that do that.
Yeah, it's just very well written, and so that I really like.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
All right. My favorite quote, I would say, is that to change your world, you must change your thoughts. And this is a quote from one of Jane Roberts' channeled Seth books, because that to me is like the essence of how to create a life that you really love.
Absolutely. Well, Mikhaila, I want to thank you for being a guest on this show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
The best way is just to come straight to my website. And the only tricky thing about getting to my website is making sure you spell Mikhaila correctly because it's unusual spelling. It's kind of Russian spelling. So it's MikhailaStettler.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is just Mikhaila Stettler. At Mikhaila Stettler on Instagram. I do post there. That's my kind of favorite social media site, but the website is the most current with everything.
Well, Mikhaila, I want to thank you once again for being a guest on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.